Urgent Dallas Cowboys fans. Do not miss this. What just happened? You won't believe this one. But before we reveal the big news, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because here, we bring you daily videos with the latest Dallas Cowboys updates. And to not miss anything, activate the notifications. Alright, Cowboys Nation, buckle up, because today we have some explosive news that could shake up the wide receiver room and maybe even change the course of the upcoming season. You know, the Dallas Cowboys have been on a quest for that elite, game-changing wide receiver for quite some time now. Since the departure of Amari Cooper, the team has been looking for that perfect piece, someone who can step in, make an instant impact, and elevate the offense to the next level. And, folks, it's no secret that the Cowboys have been exploring several options, both in the draft and through trade rumors. But what just happened? Well, it turns out the Cowboys were very close to landing a player from the Baltimore Ravens, Rashad Bateman, and the story behind this potential deal is quite fascinating, especially considering the recent trade saga involving another promising wideout, George Pickens from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, let's take a deep dive into this whole situation because it's not just about one player, it's about what it means for the Cowboys' overall strategy, their future at the position, and how they're trying to build a competitive roster that can finally get them over the hump. The Cowboys, as we all know, have been heavily invested in CeeDee Lamb, who has become their unquestioned number one receiver. But beyond Lamb, they've been looking for that complementary piece, someone who can stretch the field, make contested catches, and provide that additional spark that can turn a game around. The past few seasons have shown that while Lamb is a star, the Cowboys need someone to step up and take some pressure off him. That's why the hunt for a top-tier receiver has been ongoing, and rumors of trade talks have been swirling for months now. What's especially interesting is how the Cowboys' interest in George Pickens from Pittsburgh ties into this narrative. Reports emerged that Dallas was in discussions with the Steelers even before the draft, and the negotiations reportedly heated up after those initial conversations. The Cowboys saw potential in Pickens, a talented player with a lot of upside, but also some questions about his maturity and consistency. Still, the talent is undeniable. He's a big-bodied receiver with a knack for making acrobatic catches, and he's only entering his third season. Pittsburgh, on their end, was clear that they didn't see Pickens as a long-term franchise cornerstone. They made the decision to trade him in a deal that involved just a third-round pick, a surprisingly modest return considering the player's potential. That's a clear indication that the Steelers are perhaps more focused on rebuilding or retooling their roster, rather than committing to Pickens long-term. Now, the Cowboys' interest didn't just stop there. They actually made a move to potentially acquire Rashad Bateman from the Ravens, and that's where things get even more intriguing. According to sources, Dallas initiated discussions with Baltimore about Bateman's availability. But here's the kicker, these talks didn't go very far. Why? Well, Bateman isn't exactly a proven superstar yet. He's shown flashes of brilliance, especially last season when he posted a career-high 756 receiving yards and scored 9 touchdowns, which is almost triple his previous best. That was a big step forward for him, and the Ravens, after losing Odell Beckham Jr. in free agency, decided to extend Bateman's contract last year, signaling they still see him as a key part of their future. The deal was for a reasonable salary, around $6.4 million per year through 2026, and, interestingly, that contract was signed after Baltimore let Beckham walk, showing they had faith that Bateman could be their primary weapon. But here's something that's worth noting, especially for Cowboys fans, Bateman's production so far doesn't exactly scream elite receiver, especially compared to some of the other options out there. He's shown promise, but injuries have hampered his development, and he's only played a full season once. Still, Baltimore believes in his potential, partly because of the connection with Lamar Jackson, who has always been a quarterback that thrives with versatile, reliable targets. Jackson and Bateman developed a good chemistry, and last season's numbers reflect that. But the question remains, would Bateman have been the kind of game-changer Dallas is desperately seeking? Would he have been the deep threat, the possession receiver, and the dynamic playmaker that could help Dallas take the next step? That's still up for debate. Now, to add some context, let's remember that Baltimore's approach to wide receiver acquisitions in recent years has been somewhat conservative. They didn't draft a wide receiver until round 6 this year, which is quite low considering how much teams usually invest in that position. Instead, they opted to add DeAndre Hopkins in free agency to bolster their offense, replacing Nelson Agholor. And while Hopkins has been a bit of a disappointment at times, especially last season, Baltimore still counts on Bateman as their primary sidekick for Lamar Jackson. This shows the confidence they have in him, despite some injury concerns and inconsistency. The fact that Bateman is under contract until 2026, with a relatively affordable salary, makes him an intriguing trade target. But, as we mentioned earlier, the Cowboys' interest was limited because Bateman's production, though promising, isn't on the same level as some of the elite receivers in the league. This brings us to an important point: what about George Pickens? The Steelers, as they have done in past years, decided not to extend Pickens, instead opting to trade him in what's become a pattern for their franchise. Pittsburgh has a history of trading wide receivers in their contract years, think Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, and even the infamous Antonio Brown. It's almost like they're comfortable moving on from talented players once their rookie deals are up, preferring to rebuild or retool without long-term commitments. And that's exactly what they did with Pickens, trading him for just a third-round pick. For Dallas, this is an interesting development because it means they could potentially sign Pickens next offseason if they choose to, as he's only under contract for one more year. The Cowboys have exclusive negotiating rights until March, giving them some leverage in negotiations once the season ends. So, what does all this mean for Dallas? Well, it's clear that the team is still in the hunt for that top-tier receiver, someone who can be a true game-changer. They're weighing their options, whether to go all in on a young player like Pickens, who has immense upside but also some maturity questions, or to pivot towards a more proven but perhaps less flashy option like Bateman, who comes with injury concerns but also a decent contract and proven chemistry with his quarterback. The Cowboys' front office has been known for being strategic, patient even, but they also understand the importance of making the right move now. With the season just around the corner, every addition or subtraction in the wide receiver room could be the difference between a playoff run and an early exit. And let's not forget that the NFC East is only getting tougher. The Eagles, Giants, and even the Commanders have been making moves to improve their rosters. Dallas needs to keep pace, especially on offense, to ensure their defense can do what it does best: shut down opponents, and give Dak Prescott that extra weapon he needs to light up the scoreboard. The pressure is on, and the Cowboys are clearly exploring all avenues, whether that's through trades, draft picks, or free agency. The next few weeks will be crucial, and fans should be watching closely because any of these moves could redefine the outlook of the upcoming season. Now, before we wrap up, I want to emphasize how important it is for the Cowboys to get this wide receiver situation right. The team has a solid core, a strong offensive line, and a defense that's always competitive, but the difference maker at wideout could unlock their full potential. The recent trade rumors and negotiations show that Dallas isn't resting on its laurels. They're actively trying to find that perfect piece to complement Lamb and elevate the offense as a whole. Whether it's through a trade, a surprise draft pick, or a signing of a veteran, the Cowboys are definitely in the mix, and that's what makes this offseason so exciting for fans. And now, Dallas Cowboys fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on all these rumors? Do you think Dallas should go all in on a player like Pickens, or do you prefer they focus on a more proven commodity like Bateman? Or maybe you're hoping for a different name to come up in the trade market. Whatever your thoughts are, drop them in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the Cowboys. Remember, this is a team that's always striving for greatness, and every move counts. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates, analysis, and the latest news right here. So stay tuned, Cowboys Nation, because the best is yet to come, and we're all in this together, rooting for our team to bring home that elusive 6th Super Bowl trophy. Thank you for watching, and as always, go Cowboys!